What advice would you all give to those individuals that are looking to grow their teams, I suppose, as we head into the new year? Adam, do you want to kick us off, mate? What
Sure.
would be kind of your thoughts in this area?
I think one of the main things that I've noticed in the last months is that people seem to think that the hiring landscape is easy now because certain companies are making layoffs.
Yeah.
It's not. It's still very much a candidate-driven market. Just because the likes of Facebook or Twitter and all those kind of companies are making these news headline layoffs, the market is still very challenging. Yeah. There still is like this war on talent. That we need to find these people. So just because there are headlines going around, it doesn't mean that it's easier. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're going to get this pipeline of 10x engineers. Yeah. We still need to reach out. We still need to get people. In fact, it makes things harder because on the flip side, that other people are sitting there thinking, I'm comfortable where I am, and I don't need to move. So it makes it more and more difficult. So yeah, I think what I would say is don't take it as gospel, I suppose, that you're going to just have like loads of great candidates coming through.
So for you, it's a mindset thing, still appreciating the talent and that it's hard to find as opposed to just treating them like a number because, the perception is that there's so many of them. But in reality, and I can back this up, we produced a list when the layoffs were happening of people at Twitter, people at Meta, people at Snapchat that were made redundant. And we sent this list to thousands of hiring managers for free and said, look, if you're looking to hire, call these guys, check them out, no fees needed. And the number one email I got back was, hi Alfie, I've called everybody and everybody's already found a job. So it's for the first week or two it probably was a little bit of chaos. I was a little bit worried, but now it's got to a point where it's just as hard to find a good developer than it was a few months back.
Yeah.
What do you think, Vicky? What's your perception on advice, I suppose, for people that are looking to grow their teams as we head into the new year?
I think the most important thing is for hiring managers to really understand what they're looking for. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of kind of interviews or interview rounds where they're so long as well. And because the market is competitive, I think you really need to make sure as well that you just know what shape of a person you're looking for. So you're not, just having them wait as well for a decision because they're not going to wait for you, really. They have so many other options there. And yeah, I think it's just, at least in Grafana, it's a lot easier for us to hire because, we're global as well. And although a few people, they don't really want to work fully remote as well. So it can be challenging if they're looking for a specific office, but we do offer also like a co-working stipend every month. But yeah, I think a lot of hiring managers as well should just make sure to really expand their network because referrals are really good. But at the end of the day, referrals end up, being kind of the same people because it's just people that So just really making sure, to expand this. And then that really helps with diversity as well. Because traditionally when startups, are created, it's probably going to be a white man who has money to start it. And then they will reach out to their network and they will probably know other white men as well. And then when you have a company that's full of kind of the same kind of people, it's then difficult to get someone kind of a bit different in as well because people don't want to be the first person that's different from everyone else as well. So yeah, that's kind of my initial advice.
No, you're absolutely right. Startups are often founded around the founder, right? And they're the brand, and then they hire in their image, and that becomes a replicating thing, which happens throughout the company. I agree massively with what you said about interview speed there a second ago. We did a survey for a report that we released called How to Hire Software Developers, and we found that 90% plus, I think it was, of engineers will lose massive interest in a company if it takes more than 3 interview stages for them to make a decision. They were saying, look, these guys aren't moving quickly. Other companies are. They're showing that they're interested in me. So why would I wait around for a company which is taking its time, basically?
Yeah, and I think something to keep in mind as well is you need to be you need to understand that people have their own personal lives as well, because sometimes there's rounds where you have loads of technical take-home tasks, and if someone has a family, you can't expect them to take so many hours out of the day, especially if they're kind of comfortable in their current role and they're not specifically looking to move as well. So personally, personally me, what I like doing is giving people the opportunity, because everyone is different, to interview in different ways. Like, if they want to interview like with a live coding challenge, then they'll be good to offer that to them. If they prefer a take-home tech task, because some people do prefer that and they don't like someone watching them, then it would be good to also offer them that option. But then if you start having too many options, then it can lead to inconsistency as well with the interviewing. So yeah, it is really difficult. But I think keeping in mind, kind of that people are different as well, and not everyone works the same way, and not everyone kind of, has that time as well. I think that you should do that.
Absolutely. I've got some clients who do tests, and they are built for graduates, and you have senior developers complete them and fail at them, but they are 10 times more qualified for the job. But the test was a generic one off Google.
I mean, to be honest, I do think that seniors won't be doing as well as juniors in these actually coding challenges sometimes, because seniors tend to move away from the code, and they do more mentorship as well. So yeah, I can totally see that.
Of course. Okay. What do you think Adam, about this whole subject?
Honestly, that's quite tough. Like, to give advice to another hiring manager, like what to look at. But I bet don't hire people you don't click with. I mean, like, hire not colleagues, but like teammates. Like, you're just talking on the interview, and it's not just about like tests or like hard skills, but you're just like, the person is asking what you're doing, like, and he's then asking like why, like how do you benefit from it, like what's the use case, like how do you earn from it, like that, like commerciality type of mind. And then this person is like, well, I could probably help you this way, that way, and like you understand that this is the guy you can like basically rely on. You could pass him some like responsibilities, and that guy would be amazing in his job. Yeah. So that's probably like that's the advice I would bet on.
Yeah, no, that's certainly valid, mate. It's not just about hiring somebody with the right technical skills. It's can you click with them? Have they got the attitude? Have they got the other areas as well? I mean, you can train skill, but you can't train attitude. You need to hire for that, right? And get people that are willing to be bought into that culture, long term. And I think that's a really great segue onto the topic of culture, because let's say people listening to this have followed the advice, they've done quick interviews, they've not messed people around, they've given people options in terms of how they would like to do the interviews. They've got some great engineers in the team. One thing that a lot of people have problems with is retention in its turnover, and it's great engineers that join and then they leave after what's like the average tenure for a developer, like a year, 18 months or something max, right? So building culture, building that stickiness and reducing that turnover and retention are obviously just as critical, if not even more critical than the hiring itself. So if we go around again, what would be your advice to leaders, perhaps first-time leaders or whoever that are trying to build that culture? People are leaving, they want to reduce the turnover. What would be your thoughts, your recommendations, and your ideas in this area? Vicky, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I think some companies place a lot of emphasis, on like exit interviews. But I think really you should start earlier and, have like stay interviews to really figure out why people want to stay in the company. And I think, culture fit is, it's okay to look for in an interview, but that will end up having the same kind of people again. So something that I prefer to look at is, culture add, like how can we, because culture, it's going to change no matter what, like especially as you scale, it's impossible to, like keep it the same, especially when you have startups as well. So I think as long as you look at, kind of the attitude as well of people, then you can see how they can help grow the culture in a positive way.
I like that. Culture add over culture fit. That's probably a better way of looking at it, isn't it? 'Cause culture is such a mysterious word. Like, what does it actually mean?
Yeah, and like you were saying about the retention of engineers as well, I think it's important for us to know that engineers like to be challenged. So if they do want to move within the organization, then you should kind of make it happen, because like you can't make engineers stay if they just don't want to do the work.
Yeah, it's if you don't give them that opportunity, somebody else will. Yeah, and you'll lose them. What do you think, Adam, on this subject?
Well, I fully agree with Vicky, and to refer to the previous point, like your colleagues, like they're regular people, they got their lives, and like you as an engineer manager, like you should help them grow not only at work, but basically like you should have regular one-to-ones and just ask what are you looking for? Like, what's your next step? Like, how can I help you, like, achieve this next step? Probably someone has got some, like, problems at home, and like it's not like you should just give like a fresh breath of air like to this person. Or probably someone is like, I've got some time, I want to devote it to work, I want to work like longer hours, but I want to reach this particular goal by, for example, this time.
Yeah.
So like that's just asking, like talking to people, asking like like well, what's happening, like that.
Yeah. It blows me away how many people don't have like promotion targets. They don't have something that they're working towards, and because of that, if you don't have a goal, it's hard to score.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible cliche, but it's true. What's your view, Adam, on retention?
I think for me, there's two things that we've been doing, and I agree with all the points that everyone else has made. But we've implemented a onboarding tool called Onboarder.
Okay.
And what that's enabling us to do is really cliched, but it's like close the loop on the hires. So what we're doing is we kind of it automates a lot of the onboarding process to the point where we then look at how successful has somebody been and what has contributed to that success to loop that back into the hiring process.
Okay.
So it's looking at like what are the successful factors for people and what keeps them at Currency Cloud for longer.
Sure.
And trying to replicate that into the interviewing process. But also I think diversity in the pipeline as well, which comes back to Vicky's point on the previous question. Otherwise you end up with loads of middle-aged white men doing the same job, hiring in the same, in the image of themselves kind of thing. So making that diversity be there so that you've got a diverse panel of people that you're working with, and like setting the goals, setting things that people like doing. I know personally, if there's a project that I or one of my colleagues are working on, there's something you genuinely really care about, you can do a better job, right? And you're going to progress on that because you can see your career progression. Like I've got a guy in my team who just loves data.
Okay.
Right? He lives in Excel, like, so much so that we even bought him like an Excel T-shirt for his birthday and stuff like that. Right? It's like a team joke, but he's really good with it, and he's really improved the work that we do, and he enjoys that stuff. So I think support people to do the things they enjoy, and you'll get longevity out of it. And we track. I used to call it stickiness.
Okay.
We track the stickiness of those hires through 12, 18 and 24 months and try and target ourselves to keep. I think we're trying to look at 24 months, 75% of our hires, to try and keep that and work out where we've gone wrong.
That'll be a massively above average standard if you got to that, so that'd be wicked. But I love what you said, making data-driven decisions, and diversity obviously being just as important there. I had Joe Peterson on the podcast recently. He's the CTO of Banked, a really cool fintech company, and that was his number one advice really for people looking to build teams. And he's built massive teams, and he said, it's all about not having a team full of middle-aged white guys. That's basically what he said. And the minute that you start getting diversity of thought and diversity of background, you get diversity of opinions. And at the end of the day, whatever product that you're developing, it's not targeted for a specific like it's got to be for a white person between 25 to 45. It's most of the time the customers are anyone, right? Or any type of person. So having different types of people working on that product will allow it to appeal to different markets as well. So it makes sense from a business perspective as well, not just an ethical one. Okay, let's talk about flexibility and remote working, because that's such an important part of building cultures into kind of today's world after COVID. So what are your thoughts on remote working, on remote versus in the office versus hybrid? I know this is a controversial topic, so you might have different views, and that's cool. What do you think, Adam? Do you prefer in the office? Do you prefer hybrid? Do you prefer at home? What's your view?
I may probably stand out from the majority, but I prefer office work.
Okay.
I mean, people eventually how it all evolved. Like people like sitting together and like, well, why don't we invent nice place when no one distracts you?
Sure.
There is some snacks in the kitchen, cool water, really nice desk, with good monitors, etc. And where your colleagues are just sitting next to you and you can talk to them. There's no need to organize a chat, etc. And that's basically the reason why I prefer office.
Yeah.
I've spent 2 years during the COVID working from home, and it hit me honestly.
Yeah.
When I went back to office, that was such a pleasure. But at the same time, I do value when, for example, there is one day when you want to stay at home.
Sure.
You can just work from home the same way, but you want to do something else like that. And that's extremely convenient. And that's must work from office, no.
Mm.
Work from office and can work from home like 1 or 2 days like per week, perfectly fine.
Yeah, yes, you're more. I mean, I'm the same opinion, man. I prefer an office personally, just because I can get more done. But I believe hybrid is the way forward, and people should have the choice. So I'd definitely back you on that one. What do you think, Adam?
I sit in the middle.
Okay.
So I live somewhere that is literally a 20-minute drive round trip to get a glass of milk, right?
Oh wow.
Okay. So when I'm remote, I am remote.
Yeah.
I like the balance of hybrid. So for me, I enjoy going to the office. So I currently work between I actually got my things around my neck still, my Visa and Currency Cloud, right? So we were acquired by Visa. So I do some time in the Visa office, sometimes in the Currency Cloud office, and sometimes working from home. So I like the interactions in person, as you mentioned, like it's the water cooler chats, right? Or they're just sitting next to someone and saying, oh, by the way, how do you do this, or how are you getting on with that? And those kind of things, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
I like the normality of jumping off the train and getting my Cafe Nero, heading to the office with my coffee in hand. Like I miss that. I like that part of things, but I also like working from home in that my commute is 15 steps.
Yeah.
I get more done. I get a lot of stuff done. I can block out time. I've got no distractions. So yeah, I'm a big advocate for the sort of hybrid model myself.
Okay, cool. And your thoughts, Vicky?
I think you managed to pick a great panel today because we're all, like in the different kind of spectrum. So I really prefer working fully remote.
Yes.
One of the reasons why I decided to join Grafana was because it was fully remote. And yeah, the reason for that was because during COVID, I think I had the opposite. Realization. I just really loved it. I do think you need to be super disciplined if you're remote working because you handle your own time. As well, and it's so easy to be distracted by things, and especially if you're married or if you have any family, I think sometimes they don't really realize that you're working from home. They'll be like, oh yeah, do you want to come to the shop with me? It's like, no, I have to work.
My wife used to do that at the start, like, oh, let's just pop out to the shops. I'm like, oh, I'm working.
Yeah,
my wife still does it. I mean, to this day.
But I prefer the flexibility. I live in southeast London with the Elizabeth line. It's been great going into central, but still, I used to wake up at 6 o'clock to get the Thames Link to Farringdon, and I used to try to avoid rush hour. So I'd used to get into the office, before 8 then, and then I'd have to leave the office at maybe 4 o'clock to avoid rush hour. And I just think it's really great having the 2 hours back because, I put myself first when it comes to, kind of working as well, because, I think it's great, but at the end of the day, the job is just a job, and I want to put my personal time first. I want to spend time with my wife as well, and having the 2 hours back every day is really great. And also we order a lot from Amazon, so it's great. It's great now that they don't have to bother our neighbor anymore with delivering our parcels. But when it comes to going back to hiring as well, I think it's been so much easier for us to hire with us being fully remote because a lot of people don't like working in the office as well, but then also we can expand again our network. The hybrid model, I think, is very important that companies or organizations that set it up make sure that it's actually hybrid, because there's loads of places where they say it's hybrid, but you have to work, you have to be in the office 4 days a week, and then maybe you don't even have things set up correctly with remote working, because personally I find it really hard to work with people who are in the office and some are remote working, just because it's really hard, right, to get a meeting room. It's hard to get a meeting room, so there's always FOMO going on, if people aren't in the office as well.
I find with that, it's hard because you want to do a in-person meeting and you've got somebody on a Teams call on a laptop in the table, and it sucks. It's not the same. Having days where everyone goes in together is kind of what works for me. What were you going to say, Alex?
I was just say we're quite well set up in that each of our meeting rooms has you just press the button in the middle of the room and the people come up on the screen. Yeah. Where it's I think it's difficult is when you're the only one that's on a screen and everyone else is in person, because they sit and you just naturally do it, you turn around to the person next to you and just whisper something because it's relevant but not massively relevant. So it's like if there's somebody that's not there, we do what you said, we get together at certain times like we say today, we've all come to the office today, for example, so everyone's there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult when there's just like one person up on a screen, and you feel, I've been that person.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're sort of not engaged enough. Whereas when everybody's on a hangout, you know, we've got informally, we just press the like hands up button. If you've got a quick question, it pings and everyone goes, yep. What, you know, when you're in person, you almost feel like you. A couple of times here, I've almost gone to put my hand up to say like I want to say something, but yeah, I do find that a little bit frustrating.
But one interesting thing there is that we all agree that if you're hiring developers, you need to offer flexibility, because if you're purely trying to get people in the office, good luck. Like unless you're Elon building Twitter and you've got like a people bought into that vision, it's difficult. And even he had challenges doing that. Loads of people resigned. You know, thousands of people quit over him making in the office every day a requirement. Hey, thanks for watching this YouTube video. If you want to see more like this, please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.